The Flyers were hot, then they got cold, and now they're on a slow simmer heading into the NHL All-Star break. Caleb Weiler, Brian Wright are both here. We are recapping the first half of the NHL season, an up and down season right now for the Flyers.
Yeah, it's definitely been a good season so far, in my opinion. I mean, you've had your highs and your lows, and very, very highs and very, very lows, and you've kind of become accustomed to that with the Flyers in this day and age, where they play up against good teams and play down to bad teams, and you're kind of used to this roller coaster ride that we're on right now. But right now they're in a playoff position, and they're going to continue to play well, I believe. Ghost is probably eventually going to break out of his slump, and the team is probably going to be good going forward. So it's been a great first half, in my opinion. The team is still overachieving, and we'll see where they go from here.
Yeah, it's been a good first half. It's hard to argue with where they are because we're heading into the All-Star break in playoff position. But I feel like over the last few years, this team has been this team's hallmark consistency when, in past years, 90s, 80s, 90s, the Flyers have been consistent with being a good, solid, consistent winning team, and now they're kind of up and down. So I'm hoping over the second half of the season that Haxtell and company can kind of straighten that out a little bit.
Yeah. You look at the NHL standings right now. Flyers are 5th in the Metropolitan Division. They have they're tied with the Boston Bruins right now for the second, I guess, wild card spot. Is that correct?
The Bruins actually hold the third playoff spot in the Atlantic, so the Flyers solely hold position of that last wild card.
Okay, there you go. Okay, I'm seeing that right. Okay, yeah. Sometimes I get confused with these the new playoffs. All right, so they are in the final playoff spot. So what do you really make of this first half of the season? Because you had that big winning streak. How much is it sour knowing that they went through this long stretch where they didn't play well? Because for that streak, you thought man, this Flyers team is pretty damn good. Maybe they can be a threat in the postseason. And then to see them kind of stumble again. What is this team? Where are they? How good are they?
They're where they belong right now in the standings. I mean, the standings say it all. They're a middle of the pack team. They're not gonna win a Stanley Cup this year unless Steve Mason decides to let in one goal a game throughout the entire playoffs, and that's just not the team they are right now. Will they be eventually? Yes, I believe so. But right now, they're just not there. It's a fun team to watch because you have some great young guys in Konechny, Provorov, and Gostisbehere, led by the veterans with Wayne Simmons, Voracek, and Giroux. But right now, as much as the highs were great and the 10-game winning streak was awesome, you saw games where it was 6-5 and games where they pulled it out right at the end, right before the game ended with some empty net goals and extra men goals. And it was a lot of fun while it lasted, and seeing them come back down to earth kind of, brought everything back into order to put them into the position that they're in now.
Yeah, I agree with Caleb that the standings pretty much say it all, but I don't know, this team frustrates the hell out of me because when they're on that 10-game winning streak, I've had this conversation with people and some of our former colleagues through Facebook. I actually asked, okay, so they've won these 10 straight games. Are they a good team or is this a hot streak? And the overall response that I got from it was they're a very good team. And you saw after the hot streak came to an end, once they lose that game to Dallas, you're thinking, okay, that 10-game streak's not going to last forever. They'll bounce back up. But then after that, they have these really high highs and really low lows. And I guess the standings dictate that that's just how they play right now. But because I feel like they should be better.
Yeah, every team kind of goes through that, kind of that winning stretch during the season. You get through that really, really hot stretch. And, maybe that's just what it was for the Flyers. But at the same time, this was an elongated stretch. This was for 10
That was my point.
Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt. That was winning 10 games in a row in the NHL is not a fluke. And
yeah. And the way they were winning some of those games.
After the winning streak, it looks like a fluke.
The way that they were winning some of those games, too. You look at the Stars game where they trail in the third period and they get 2 late goals from Braden Shen, and the other game, the Oilers game, was remarkable, where they come back.
Right,
from that.
that's a game that they should lose. If you're talking realistically, that game ended 6-5. That's probably a game that they should have lost. Win it, and so they just frustrate me because they are where they are, but I feel like if they iron out a few more things, they could be better.
Yeah.
I think the thing with the Flyers is as much as they have some great firepower on offense, when you're sliding players like Dale Weiss and Matt Reed into your top six and have Andrew McDonald on your top pairing, anchored by a 19-year-old, your chances are you're not going to be a good team. I mean, I loved what they did during that 10-game winning streak, and I love the Flyers, obviously, but when your defense is led by players like Andrew McDonald and a 39-year-old Mark Streit, as much as the winning streak was awesome, I just don't see – I knew that wasn't sustainable, and I think eventually they're going to be a really good team, but they got to get rid of those bad players first.
They definitely have some personnel issues that they have to iron out in the next couple of years. But as we had noted before, if you guys watched the World – I think it was the World Junior Tournament, Flyers have 9 guys that competed in that World Junior Tournament. So the future – and the process is looking bright for the Flyers.
Yeah, they had 9 guys in that tournament, and Provorov and Konechny were still eligible, but they stayed with the team. So it's 11 players that the Flyers have that are 20 and under that are going to be coming up soon. And just to touch on prospects too, Oscar Lindblom, who's playing over in the SHL, is third in the league in points right now, which is incredible. Last year, Austin Matthews was first, and you see how good he is. So the future is bright for the Flyers, and eventually they're going to be a really good team. And right now, under Dave Haxtell's system, I think they're overachieving a little bit by making the playoffs last year, by being in a playoff position at the All-Star break this year. And hopefully they make the playoffs again, and maybe they make a little bit of a run, a little bit of noise in the playoffs. But right now they're not a Stanley Cup team.
You saw during one of the NHL on NBC games or during one of the World Junior games, Pierre Maguire made the comment that the Flyers have elite talent and are set up to be an elite team for years to come based on all the prospects that we have.
They do. Bob McKenzie was saying that Philip Myers and Robert Hagg are both NHL ready right now. And by the end of the year, Morin and Sanheim will also be NHL ready. So
I want to see Myers because that kid intrigues me, and I don't really know anything about him.
Yeah, he's like 6'7", 6'9". Like he's just the next Chris Pronger at height and meanness. He just destroys people. So I
heard, and I would like to see him at some point soon.
Yeah, just YouTube Sam Morin fights, and you'll be happy.
There it is. All right, so we've been talking like kind of last couple minutes about how good this team really is. Okay, so now the question is, and you guys briefly touched on it, how far away are they from being a contender? Because you guys referenced all the young prospects they got in the organization. How far are they away? Next year?
In my opinion, I've always said that the cutoff for the Flyers is going to be the 2020-2021 season, where they're going to hit that sweet spot where Claude Giroux, Jake Voracek, and Wayne Simmons still aren't that old, but all the young kids are coming into their prime and are still on their entry-level contracts or bridge deals. So it's kind of like in the NFL where you have Carson Wentz, who's on his entry-level deal for 4 or 5 years. You have all that other cap space to spend on players that can really fill out your roster. So when you have players like Hagg, Morin, Provorov, Konechny, all on their entry-level deals or bridge deals at like $2 million or less per year, you're going to be able to fill in that spot. And that's where the Flyers are going to be in about 2020, 2021, and a couple years before that as well. So those are the years where Ron Hextall is going to be able to have a lot of cap flexibility, and it's going to be really interesting to see what he does to see if he can turn this into a Stanley Cup winning team.
Yeah, I think if we're getting caught up in the Joel Embiid process, the Flyers process, I think really hits its stride in the next 2 to 3 years. When you've got the young defensemen coming up, Myers, we've touched on, Myers, Morin, Sanheim, Robert Hagg. That way, Hextall can kind of cut some dead weight out of there. The quicker we can get rid of guys like Mark Streit, fucking McDonald, for the love of God, that the quicker we'll be able to morph into an elite team. We also have to figure out what they're going to do with the goaltending, because you can't keep Mason and Neuwirth, and they've got Alex Lyon, they've got Stolars, They've got Carter Hart, and I can't think of the other goaltender's name.
Sandstrom.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just saying the other goalie is Sandstrom, but continue.
Yeah, but those two goaltenders that were in that goal, both goaltenders in the World Junior title game are Flyer prospects. So we've got some future flexibility there. So I think in 2 to 3 years, if Hextall gets things right, which I think he will, 2 to 3 years, we could see this team competing for a cup.
Okay. All right. So two of those pieces that could be part of that cup-winning team, Ivan Provorov, Travis Konecny. Can these rookies keep sustaining success, you think, during the second half of the year? Obviously, the first half, pretty outstanding.
Yeah, I think they're just scratching the surface. Obviously, the most impressive person is Ivan Provorov. He has turned in from a league-leading WHL defenseman to a league-leading NHL defenseman. He leads the Flyers in time on ice, and he's always out there in every situation. Power play, penalty kill, even strength, any situation they need him to play, and he is. And he's just been incredible this year, being able to drag along that sack of meat that Andrew McDonald is. It's just awful how bad Andrew McDonald is. And Ivan Provorov actually makes him look somewhat serviceable, which is incredible. And so I think he's just scratching the surface. Ivan Provorov is the type of defenseman that you're able to build a franchise around for 10 to 15 years. And I'm excited to see what he's going to blossom into until the next couple of years. I mean, we have a really, really good player on our hands here. And I'm excited to see where he can go. And same with Travis Konecny, probably not to the same level as an Ivan Provorov on the offensive side of the puck. Do I think he's going to be as good as Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews? No. Do I think he could be another Claude Giroux? Yes. I think he's going to have some seasons where he probably plays at a point per game pace. He shoots the puck a lot, which the Flyers need. And he's been really good this year. He's that spark that the Flyers need. He's very speedy on the ice. And he's always a threat to be physical as well. I like the way he plays, similar to Braden Shen in a way where the more physical he is, the better he plays. And right now, they're great. I think at the beginning of the year, I said Provorov would be around 30 points and Konecny around 35. And it looks like they're on pace for that. So I'm excited to see where they go. I expect big sophomore seasons from them as well. But for the end of the season, I think they continue their stellar play.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Flyers weren't quite sure what they were going to get out of Provorov and Konecny when they jumped them up from the minors straight to the NHL. I think they obviously saw enough in training camp that they felt they were NHL ready. But I think maybe in the back of the minds, they weren't quite sure how they were going to do. But I think Provorov has clearly exceeded everyone's expectations. I mean, he's 19, 20 years old. He's already your number one defenseman, and he's only going to get better. And Konecny, like you said, he's not going to be Connor McDavid. He's not going to be Austin Matthews. But he's a solid top 3, top 6 forward, and he certainly can score you some goals and get you points. So I think he'll hit any kind of rookie wall, which I think if they were going to, it probably would have hit by now. But I think those two have a very, very bright future. And this year, as far as the rest of this year, they're only going to get better.
All right, next guy to talk about, Wayne Simmonds. All right, 9 years in the league, first All-Star appearance this year. The lone representative for the Flyers. You could have made the argument for Jake Voracek as well. So 21 goals, 17 assists for Wayne Simmonds right now. Thoughts on his first half?
Wayne Simmonds has been incredible. Not only was he on pace for 40 goals at one point this year, now he's on pace for slightly less, somewhere closer to 35. But he's been incredible. And the most important thing for me about Wayne Simmonds is that he's actually been getting penalty kill time this year, which shows that he's becoming into a more all-around player as opposed to just being somebody who scores a lot of goals and camps in front of the net. You've been seeing him score breakaway goals. You've been seeing him score goals from the outside, scores from inside the paint, like we're used to seeing with Wayne Simmonds. And I've just been all around impressed with his play. It seems like he's flying around on the ice a lot faster than normal, and he definitely deserves that all-star nod. You're not wrong saying Jake Voracek probably got snubbed a little bit there, but the Metropolitan Division is such a powerhouse right now that even when Evgeny Malkin got hurt, and is now out of the All-Star game, that Cam Atkinson got the nod over Jake Voracek, which I thought was a little bit ridiculous, but Atkinson is also having a stellar season for the Columbus Blue Jackets. So as much as I would have loved to see Simmonds and Jake in the All-Star game together and the skills competition, which is tonight, I think putting Wayne Simmonds in there over Voracek was definitely the right decision.
Oh, Simmonds has been excellent. I think, what's interesting about Simmonds, I think, is when that trade to get Simmons from LA. I think when he was in LA, he was kind of used as like almost like a goon, like an fourth line energy guy. We can't call them goons anymore. That's politically incorrect. But ever since he's been with the Flyers, he's been steadily improving to the point where now, he's your leading goal scorer and he can do everything. So I'm not really sure what else to say about him. The guy's been your best player, and I think he's only going to get better the longer he's here.
Yeah. All right. Next question is this. All right, so kind of a two-parter. Name a couple Flyers that you think have exceeded expectations, and then on the other side of the ledger, a couple that haven't been what you thought they'd be.
So what I'll say is, besides the obvious Ivan Provorov, the guy who's
go with guys. Yeah, don't go with the names you would.
Besides the obvious, I'll start with an underwhelming. In Dale Weiss, he's been really, really bad this year, and he sat out the last 3 games, and the Flyers have actually won all 3 games that he's sat out. So I don't know if it's an issue with him not having good chemistry with other people in the lineup, or what the deal is, but he just seems to bring the team down in a way where they don't play as well when he's out there on the ice. And a player that I really enjoy is Roman Lyubimov. I mean, he scored the game-winning goal in the last game before the All-Star break. And every time he's out on the ice, he just plays with a ton of heart. He's always out there forechecking, back-checking. He is the fourth-line center that you want. And I will be really, really upset if Ron Hextall does not bring him back next year, because I think that line of Van de Velde, Bellemare, and Lyubimov is a fourth line that can rival almost any other in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, as far as a guy that's, I guess, overachieved, overperformed, I was going to take Lyubimov, but he kind of where I could. So I don't know if this guy qualifies as overachieving, but I like Matt Reed. He had such a terrible season last year, even though he was injured for a lot of it, but he's come back to become a solid contributor, and that's well to have the Flyers where they are, because I think even without his contributions, they'd be further down. As far as a guy that's underachieved, my first thought is Andrew McDonald, but that might be a little too obvious because that guy is just a pile of crap, and he's being pulled along by a 19-year-old rookie defenseman. Good question. I'm not sure I have a guy that really is underachieving.
The poop emoji has now been replaced by a face of Andrew McDonald.
You could replace the shit emoji with Andrew McDonald's face, and that would serve the same purpose.
Yes.
I don't disagree.
Perhaps Michael Del Zotto, because he doesn't get in the lineup as often as he probably should. But I don't know if that's really his fault. I guess you can blame that one on Hextall for not playing him as often.
Mm-hmm. All right, Hextall. What grade would you give him for the first half?
Oh, man. If I had to give Hextall a grade, because Andrew McDonald has played, I'm pretty sure, 43 out of 50 games so far this year. And that is a bad statistic to have your head coach. I don't know if they're trying to get him in so the Las Vegas Knights will take him in the expansion draft or what. But I don't understand why they're keeping him in. But Hextall does have an overachieving Flyers roster in playoff position for a second year in a row. So if I had to give him a grade, I'd probably give him a B-. Questionable lineup decisions, but his system seems to work. And I like him as a coach. I don't want Ron Hextall to get rid of him. I think we should ride the Hextall wave until either the Flyers are a perennial playoff team or they're a perennial basement team. So right now I really like Hextall, and I give him a B-.
I was leaning C+, B-. Like you said, some of the lineup questions are really interesting. The first time he benches Ghost, you're thinking, all right, he probably could use a day or so off to kind of clear his head. He's done it a couple times. I can't. We keep harping on this, but I can't understand why he continues to play Andrew McDonald, and 2, why he continues to pair Andrew McDonald with their best. Why pair your best guy with your worst guy? Are you trying to cover up for the fact that Andrew McDonald sucks? If that's the logic, then okay. But I think I'd have to go with a C+ just because of the sheer inconsistency that they've had. We've talked about, the 10-game winning streak followed by the cratering back to earth.
Yeah.
Given the inconsistency, a C+ seems about right.
All right, and you just touched on Ghost. Now that we'll go to Ghost now. What's going on with him? Sophomore slump, What are you guys seeing from Ghostman?
I think teams are starting to figure him out a little bit. I don't think it's any fault of his own. I think he needs to take this off season and the rest of the season to figure out how to counteract how teams are playing defense against him. Because on the power play, you can obviously tell that they're trying to take away those shooting lanes from him. The passing lanes from Voracek to Gostisbehere are almost always non-existent on the power play right now. And that's why you see a lot of goals from players like Braden Shen and Wayne Simmons closer to the net, because enemy teams are shifting their players closer to the blue line to neutralize Ghost out there. So it's no fault of his own. He's actually been one of our better defensemen defensively this season. I believe he's second in ice time behind Ivan Provorov, which says a lot because he's playing a lot of minutes as well. I wouldn't really consider it a sophomore slump. I think it would have been ridiculous to think that Shane Gostisbehere would have put up another 50-point season. His first season was miraculous. And so as much as I love him, I think he's playing well. Could he play better? Yes. But is it really a slump that he won't break out of? No, I think he'll regain to his form.
Yeah, I guess the better question is, like, are you guys disappointed in him? Because people are talking slump. And sometimes when you say sophomore slump, sometimes that just means teams have adjusted to you. Because when you think about rookies that have had really, really good first years, and then you think about the offseason and opposing teams, they have an entire offseason to study your tape and study all your tendencies. And then the second year you go in and, well, you think you can just do what you did the first year because you did so well, and then you do. And then adjustments are made. You see this all the time in sports. So when you say sophomore slump, it's just teams adjusting. And I agree with that, Caleb.
Yeah, I would definitely not say I'm disappointed. I'm not disappointed because he's playing better defensively. Would I like more points offensively? Yes. But yeah. I'm not disappointed.
I wouldn't say I'm disappointed. I mean, like you said, last year he was almost an instant superstar. Yeah. And I'm not quite sure that that's what he is. So he kind of the one game off and a little bit. So I think maybe, like you said, teams have adjusted to him. But I think last year, as Philadelphia fans tend to do, we put him so high on the pedestal as like, oh my God, this guy's going to be our next superstar defenseman. Quite at that level. He's still very good, and I wouldn't say I'm disappointed with him.
Yeah, because I remember, like, we did overrated, underrated flyers during the summer. And one of Caleb's overrated players, I believe, was Shane Gostisbehere. A little bit of controversy there. But you can see why.
Yeah, more so foreshadow and assuming that Shane Gostisbehere would be able to be an offensive powerhouse on a bad Flyers team. So he single-handedly brought the Flyers into the playoffs last year. Is he going to do that every year? No. So was he overrated last year? Yes. Am I disappointed in his play this season? No. I like him. I think he's going to be a great defenseman as a number 2, number 3 behind players like Sanheim and Provorov. And he's going to be a great power play quarterback. He still skates awesome with the puck, and he still has great vision around the ice. He makes passes that almost nobody else can make. So I love his play. He was just overrated last year because of the thoughts that the Flyers fans had about him.
Yeah.
Well said. Yeah.
All right, let's move on to goalies. Steve Mason, .902 save percentage, not among the best in the NHL. So would you say that he's having a poor year, or would you just say that it's the defense in front of him? Or is it a mixture of both?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of both. And like you said, you actually have to go to the second page to find Steve Mason's save percentage this year. So obviously not very good. But you see the times where Steve Mason plays like a Vezina caliber goalie, where during that 10-game winning streak, his save percentage is well above .920. And obviously his start to the season was horrendous. I'm pretty sure 10, 15 games into the year, he was still sporting like an .850 save percentage, which is just bad. He's letting in like 3 goals every 20 shots, which is not sustainable, obviously. And career, his save percentage is a .908. Which also isn't great, but with the Flyers, it's somewhere closer to like .920. And so, yeah, the defense isn't great. Yeah, there's players like Brandon Manning, who's played well this year, but players like Andrew McDonald, players like Nick Schultz, who are on the Flyers blue line that don't help. And he's a good goalie. I think he gets into his own mind too much, and he's played 40 of the 50 played in rather. He started 36 games. He's played in 40 games this year out of the 50 that the Flyers have played leading up to the All-Star break. So I really like Steve Mason. They're going to have to make a choice at the end of the year between Steve Mason and Michael Neuwirth because both their contracts are up. And in my opinion, the obvious choice is to stick with Steve Mason.
Flyers goalie situation has been almost a mess for about 25 years. So how well they're doing. I don't hate Steve Mason. I don't think it's all his fault, his up and downs. The defense is sort of a mess, but they need to figure out this whole Mason Neuwirth 1 and 1A thing because it fucks with Mason's head. And I think it actually brings him down because you saw during that 10-game winning streak when he was the guy, he's really good. Like I said, when he gets out of his own brain, he's a Vezina caliber goaltender. So I think if they could somehow channel that and get him to realize how good he is, because I think he fucks with his own mind sometimes, then I think you would have that sorted out. But I don't think I would say I'm disappointed in Steve Mason. He's shown flashes of brilliance.
Yeah, and leading up to this year too. I mean, if you look at his even strength save percentage, it's incredible. I mean, 1 year he had a save percentage of .940, which is ridiculous. I mean, he's letting in one goal every 20 shots at even strength at one point playing for the Flyers. So maybe if the Flyers took less penalties and had a better all-around team atmosphere and a team game, they'd probably win some more games. Because Steve Mason obviously is not the reason that they're losing these games when they don't take a lot of penalties.
And the team defense is terrible. I mean,
yeah. All right, so let's talk second half of the season. Let's talk expectations and just how far of a run can this team make? Is this just kind of like a one-and-done playoff team, or are they not going to make the postseason? What do you guys think?
I think they do make the postseason. I think it's a similar thing where they're one and done, though. I mean, unless they get really, really, really hot like they did, similar back to 2010, where, I mean, Michael Leighton just played out of his mind until the finals. And there's a chance that the Flyers could win a round, but they're not serious Stanley Cup playoff contenders. If they were to win the Stanley Cup this year, I honestly think it would be a fluke. They just don't have the players to do it. Are they better than a lot of the teams that won't make the playoffs this year? Yes. But the Toronto Maple Leafs are playing really well right now, and they're jockeying between them and the Bruins for that last wild card spot. So it's a tricky situation to be in because there's a chance that they could continue to jockey for the Atlantic spot, but the Flyers still shore up that last wild card spot. So there aren't a lot of teams behind them that I'm afraid of. Maybe the Islanders, they just fired their coach, and that sometimes revitalizes a team. But I still think the Flyers, out of all the remaining teams that are beneath them right now, have the best shot to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, I see two possible scenarios for this rest of the season. They either get that second wild card spot or they miss the playoffs by like a point or two. But like you said, they're not ready to be a serious cup contender. If they were to make another miracle run to the finals, it would really be a fluke. I mean, they've shot their load with that 10-game winning streak, and they're going to just go up and down and up and down and up and down until the end of the season. Situation where it will come down to the last game of the season, and they need to win to get in. I don't know how this team would cope with that kind of pressure. You never know. So I think they're either going to get that second wild card spot or they're going to miss by a point or two.
Okay. All right. So that about wraps it up for the show. We'll get to final thoughts right about now, but some good stuff in this one. And yeah, what do you guys have to say?
Final thoughts. Make sure you check out NHL All-Star Weekend. Wayne Simmons is performing in a bunch of the skills competition events tonight. I'm really excited for that. The skills competition is almost better than the actual All-Star game. So definitely check that out if you have some time. It's on NBCSN. And when the Flyers come back, they have some pretty tough games coming up against some quality teams. So if they want to keep the momentum going after that 3-game winning streak they're currently on, they're going to really have to push their way through it. So love the way the Flyers are playing right now. I'd love to continue to see them doing that in the final stretch of these last 32 games this year.
Yeah, they're in a good way here heading into the All-Star break with the 3 consecutive wins. It's going to be Hextall's job and Hackstall's job to get them to figure out a way to be more consistent. I think through 32 games here, they're just going to have to figure out how to start better and hopefully be a little more consistent over the year. And I think that you could see them in the playoffs. Also, raise the cat. There you go. In honor of Joel Embiid and the surging Sixers.
Oh, yeah, baby. Yeah, the Sixers show is coming up 7 o'clock. Kyle and I are going to be talking about Joel Embiid and if he was snubbed out of an All-Star game, which, well, obviously he was.
I say yes. I say yes.
100% yes.
Yeah. I'm not going to get into too much of that.
Millsap, fuck off, Paul Millsap. Go home.
Paul Millsap is a god.
People in Atlanta don't even know who Paul Millsap is.
It's funny though, because like Millsap is all right. I'll save for whatever. Okay, but he's now a four-time All-Star, and this is by far his best season that he's having. And Embiid is like blowing him out of the water.
Embiid is doing more in less minutes.
We'll talk about it at 7 o'clock because I can ramble on for about 10 minutes if I wanted to right now, but I'm not. It's the
nice little teaser.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, just like that 10-game winning streak. Tease.
That was a tease.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna make a really bad joke, and I'm not. So that's it. We're just gonna stop it right now. Caleb Weiler, Brian Wright. I'm Adrian Fentu. Go Flyers. Hopefully, they pick things back up where they started here last 3 games with the 3-game winning streak. Hopefully, that simmer goes to a boil. We're out.
Peace.
Peace.